safety, but
yeah, guess who forgot to hit the live button on the YouTube stream?
It's okay. We were on the
That'd
locals.
Be me. That'd be me.
We were on the locals. It's all good, and they know about the snow, so it's
That's right,
Sean. You'll appreciate this.
Okay.
I did something to my back while I was shoveling today.
Oh boy,
lower back hurts to stand up straight, kind of a deal.
Yeah.
No, it'll probably pass. But sitting
Time
in the chair.
for a snowblower, Vince.
Well, I've got one, but it's like buried, behind the car.
Yeah.
Which doesn't do a whole lot of good when you can't back the car out because of the snow in the driveway.
And I've got my snowblower, and I can't remember, is this the second or third winter that I've had it? I don't know, but
we haven't had a lot of snow.
I got an upgrade. Yeah, I know. This is the worst
Yeah.
snow year we've had in a long time. But we've had a couple snows over the last few years since I've lived in this house where we are, since I bought this new, but it's got the electric start. So you plug it in.
Oh,
and
nice.
you just push the button and it fires up.
No.
So you don't have to do the pull cord and all that.
Jerking the shoulder around. Yeah.
Yeah. Which on my old one, it's like, especially when it gets cold like this, it was just so hard to get started. So I'm very spoiled to an extent, but I've got, as you know, I've got like a 30-yard long driveway that's gravel. And
yes.
It's
you have a large area to cover.
That's why I upgraded the snowblower. And I had to do it after I got back from the basketball game last night.
Yeah.
I did it. And then I got up this morning and I'm like, hold it, what?
Nothing. Like it looked like you
did
nothing.
Snow?
Yeah, it looked like you did nothing, I'm sure.
And the only reason I knew is because I could see my wife's tire tracks out of the driveway.
I know.
So good times. Good times.
Great times. Great times living in northern Indiana and everywhere else in the country that I know I'm sure is getting weather that they're not normally used to, which I always find comical when like people in the South get a little bit of snow and then just the whole place shuts down. Like that always makes me laugh a little bit, but hope everybody's staying safe, warm, all of those fun things out there.
I guess in Dallas, like this was a thing when they hosted the Super Bowl a few years back. They had like no salt for the highways. It was just sand.
Right.
And it's like, so all you do is skid around on the sand or, on the sand and the ice when that happens. They were totally unprepared.
Yeah.
And they apparently still are. Like they don't, they don't do the salt. They do sand instead. I don't know how much more expensive it is to buy the salt, but it feels like just have the salt on.
And like, does it go bad? Is there an expiration date?
I don't know.
The salt? You know what I mean? Like just buy some.
At least once a winter, like Atlanta, maybe Nashville, Dallas,
right.
Like they're going to get some kind of ice, but
yeah.
I don't know.
But yeah, I had Mr. John over here says my kids should be shoveling the snow. The kid, singular, who was actually helpful, no longer lives with us. And so now it's 3 daughters in a row. And my youngest daughter it was her and I. She did half, I did half. And so she was very, very helpful. So I will give her all the credit in the world. I owe her a Starbucks for helping me with the driveway.
I feel like if you've got a snowblower in your garage, this is all on you. So
I get. Do you get a lot of pushback from your wife if you walk in the house smelling like the gas, the exhaust of the snowblower? Because that's where I get the issue.
Really?
Oh yeah, huge pushback.
I mean, it's kind of like, look, I'm the one out doing the work, so what I smell like is kind of irrelevant. At this point. So
yeah.
And our laundry room is right there.
Okay, yeah, that's
entryway. So I just strip down, throw it all in the washing machine, and it's all right there.
That's fair. That's fair.
I feel like you got to, and look, you've got an excuse this winter too. You just had two major surgeries.
I know. Like, I know. Which the doctor was kind enough to put the date of when I'm allowed to do everything again, and that was a few days ago.
Of course,
that ship has now officially sailed.
I'll tell you what else is officially sailed. Mike Mickens.
Nice segue.
Cast his sail, and he is heading off to Baltimore. Crab cakes for Mike Mickens.
Yeah.
I guess. The Notre Dame defensive backs coach has moved on. That is kind of the news of the weekend. I was mulling around a few different ideas for shows for today after I was done with my snowblowing duties yesterday. And then this popped up. And so after 6 years he is out. He is gone. He's moving on to the NFL, joining the Baltimore Ravens. He's going to be on Jesse Minter's first staff after Minter becomes the head coach, his first head coaching opportunity. And it's like you don't really think about who's worked with whom until something like this happened.
Right.
Apparently, Minter was a grad assistant at Cincinnati when Mickens played at Cincinnati, and then they coached together at Indiana State for I think a year, and now here they are, one of the top, if not the top, defensive backs coach in all of college football, joining Jesse Minter's staff, going to the NFL. So, Vince, what was your reaction when you first heard this news last night?
Well, to be honest with you, over the last few years, it was like waiting for the other shoe to drop with Mike Mickens. And it felt like, okay, as long as he's here, I'm going to be ecstatic. I'm going to be happy. I am going to be all of the things that you can be. Because, we're going to do a show tomorrow where we talk about the top assistant coaches at Notre Dame. We're going to rank them. And he was the unanimous number one assistant coach, in my opinion. And so, the reality was he wasn't going to be here forever. And so it was just like, it wasn't an if, it was a when. And that when happened last night. And so it was like, man, that really stinks. But at least now we know. I think that's the way it felt. It the last few off seasons, it's just felt to me like, man, I hope Mickens stays. Man, I hope Mickens stays. And he has until yesterday. And so I think you got 6 great seasons out of Mike Mickens. And if you're a Notre Dame fan, you should be ecstatic for the 6 seasons that you got. You could be upset that he's gone. Absolutely. I'm right there with you. But it was like I said, it was a matter of when, not if.
That's exactly right. But my first reaction was, oh, spit, like Ralphie on Christmas Story. Oh, fudge. But I didn't say fudge, and I didn't say spit. But that was my first reaction, because it's like where we are in the calendar with all the coaching carousel and everything going on in December. It's like you kind of feel like you're past it, and then this you almost sort of forget, oh yeah, there are still things going on in the NFL.
There's an NFL window.
It's not like anybody when Jesse Minter was hired with Baltimore, looked and said, oh yeah, he coached with Mike Mickens back in the day at Indiana State, or he was on the staff at Cincinnati when Mickens was there. So it's not like anyone is piecing something like that together, but then it's like, boom, this kind of stuff drops on you. And when you've got an elite program and you've got an elite coaching staff and you've got very specifically an elite guy like Mickens, like you said, like every year we've been through this over the last few years, and it just felt like maybe we got lulled into a false sense of security because the college cycle was done and the NFL cycle is just picking up for these guys who are becoming, getting jobs as head coaches and hiring their staffs now. So it felt like Notre Dame was kind of out of the woods, but then boom, here it comes, and the bomb drops. And it goes without saying that everyone wishes Mike Mickens well. He's leaving a program that he helped make elite with both his recruiting, his eye for development, and the development itself. But now that leaves a very big hole to fill on this half. How big a loss do you think this is, Vince, for Notre Dame?
It's a massive loss. It is a loss of massive proportion, because before Mike Mickens got here, the secondary at Notre Dame was a mess. To put it lightly, they would have a diamond in the rough every now and again, who would play well, but having one is not going to cut it. You know what I mean? It was that kind of a thing. And Notre Dame was struggling in the secondary. And then along comes Mike Mickens and just completely rebuilds it from the bottom up. And his presence, here's what I'll say. His loss will not be felt right away. I think anybody with coaching chops, as they say, can come in here with this Ferrari of a secondary and this room that Mike Mickens has put together and be successful probably this year and probably next year. You're going to start feeling it potentially
on the recruiting
trail and the development trail, recruiting and development. And that's where you're going to feel, because Mike Mickens was an absolute stud when it came to identifying talent, going and getting it and then developing it when it was here. Notre Dame has had 3 freshman All-Americans in the secondary 3 years in a row. That's pretty amazing. That's amazing. And it just
I feel
seems
like I'm talking to Tom Brady, just throwing that stud around. You ever notice how Tom Brady? He's a stud.
He's a stud.
He's a stud.
But I think that's where you're going to feel it. So, like somebody said, what's going to happen this year? They're going to be fine this year.
I mean, they should be good this year, especially you find the right. They're not just going to go out and hire anybody off the street. So you have confidence that they're going to go out and find someone who can coach cornerbacks. You're absolutely right. So they should be fine this year. Now, how much give and take is going to go on with defensive philosophy and coverage philosophy and those kind of things? And how much is Marcus Freeman going to step in and make sure that things are being run the way he wants? Because, again, we don't have to rehash everything that happened at the beginning of last season, but obviously as things were shorn up, Mike Mickens had a big hand in helping get that shorn up, because all of a sudden these huge deficiencies in the coverage went away. But the biggest thing is Mike Mickens has a very specific eye for these guys, like with a Benjamin Morrison and a Leonard Moore. And I mean, go back to Sauce Gardner, obviously, like at Cincinnati, these weren't guys who were like all a bunch of 5-star guys and he just brought in and rolled them out and turned them into players. There were still very specific things and traits that he saw in these guys, so like going forward as you look at this thing, like you were alluding to 2 or 3 years down the road, that's really the biggest concern, because now Mike Mickens' eye is gone. And, can other guys still recruit? Can other guys still bring in talent? Yeah. But again, like these guys, like he had a very specific eye for what he was looking for. And then it translated into actual production on the field. And as you said, with all these freshman All-American honors and All-American honors in a very short amount of time, he turned these guys who, again, were not high-end, high-profile recruits. He turned them into high-end, high-profile players once they got here to Notre Dame.
And in short order. It wasn't something like he's just bringing in guys and then they wait till their junior or senior year before they pop. Like these guys are getting on the field as true freshmen and popping. And so I think that's the biggest piece of this. And then also, and I forgot about this angle of it because this is like the new age college football. It's going to be about retention too, because Mike Mickens is the one that brought in all these guys and stacked this room the way it's stacked, right? And so they could all leave next year. A year from now, this room could be decimated. And then all of a sudden we're like, what is Notre Dame going to do in 27? And so I think that's a legitimate thing to keep an eye on, right? They came to play for Mike Mickens, right? Now, people come for various reasons, right? You come for the school, you come for the position coach, you come for the head coach, you come for the pro, all of the different things, right? If you play, video games, NCAA 25, and you're recruiting guys, there's all the different categories like that. There is some reality to that, right? Because you never know what a guy is looking for. But Mike Mickens was a big part of that. So with the ease of movement now in 2026, are these guys going to stick around? I hope so. I really do. I hope Marcus Freeman is talking to every one of those guys right now and talking about their future and, all of those things and letting them know, like, I'm going to go get you guys the best coach I can get and, all of those types of things. But I think that's something to pay attention to as well. If this was 10 years ago, it'd be like, look, Notre Dame's set for the next 3 years. This is not 10 years ago, unfortunately. This is now. And so hopefully they can retain all of those guys. And the other piece of this, Sean, is who is going to have a say in who is brought in, right?
No, I know. Is it just Marcus Freeman? Is it Chris Ash? Who is making
Mike Martin involved at all as the player personnel?
Right.
I'm sure he's going to have a bit of a say. I'm sure Marcus Freeman has a list of guys that he wants to talk to because he's there every day. He knows that the lifespan of Mike Mickens at Notre Dame, especially since he wasn't even interviewed for the defensive coordinator position this last time around, that lifespan there was going to be an end to it at some point. And so I'm sure Marcus Freeman has a list of guys that he would talk to right away. And Brian made a good point earlier today. He said, I bet you even Marcus Freeman's agent has a couple of names that he wants to throw Marcus's way. You know what I mean? So there's going to be a lot of noise. Does Pete Bavacqua have a say at all in who they bring in?
Does Urban Meyer have a say?
Right? So where does this search go? How does it go?
Yeah, I mean,
from the Jim Tressel. That's a good one. From what I have heard, and take this for what it's worth, it's going to be a fairly quick situation. But again,
well, that's good. I mean, honestly,
we'll see.
Because of what you were alluding to there, Vince, this has been over the last at least 2 cycles. Mike Mickens has become an in-demand guy, and especially after last year. But he did stick around, and they gave him basically they gave him every title they could, but defensive coordinator. Right. And they gave him more money as well. But as that's going on, Marcus Freeman has to have an eye to the future going, okay, if Mickens does leave, because remember, these 2 guys go all the way back to high school together. They've been close. And so, but he had to be thinking a year ago, okay, if Mike does leave, what's my list going to look like? He had to be putting together a list, and maybe even at that point, putting out feelers like, hey, if this were to happen, those kind of things. Because he's a guy, he's been around, and he's got contacts beyond just Urban Meyer and Tressel and everybody else. I mean, he's been around the block a time or two. But I think it's a really good question as to who exactly is going to make this call. Will it be Marcus Freeman, or is he going to leave it to Chris Ash? Because I think we all know who we'd, feel comfortable. More comfortable.
I mean,
look,
although Marcus did hire Chris Ash, so
and look, the Charlie Partridge connection ended up being a good one, and in terms of what we know, and Chris Ash and Charlie Partridge and that connection. So no one's complaining about that. But look, the biggest issue that they had defensively was what was going on, and the obvious difference in philosophies and how that defense was going to be run last season, early in the season. And from everything that we know, Mike Mickens played a pretty big role in getting that thing turned around in the direction that it ended up going, so it's obviously a very important decision. And I am a little bit anxious to see how this turns out, because look, this ultimately, at least for right now, at least for the short term, for the 2026 season, this is probably the biggest decision that Marcus Freeman has to make now at this point.
It's a very large one that he has to make. Absolutely correct. I'm sure we'll get some ideas of which way he's leaning and who he's interviewing. You're going to hear all the things when these things start to go down, right? And so I don't think we're going to have to wait too long to start getting names. I think it's a little irresponsible maybe for us to be like, this is who they should hire and things like that, because it's not our program. But I'm sure once we start actually hearing names of guys that they're talking to specifically, those names will get out pretty fast.
This is a name, Irish for Life 99 put this up there in the YouTube chat. This is one I've heard pop up a lot in the last less than 24 hours. Chris O'Leary, who was the safeties coach here at Notre Dame, joined Jim Harbaugh's staff out in the Chargers, defensive coordinator for Western Michigan this year. The only reason I don't like it, one, he was not a great recruiter when he was here, and 2, he coached safeties as opposed to corners. Yeah. I want someone who is intimately involved with the cornerbacks, because that is honestly been the difference in Notre Dame being a pretty good pro. You don't hear things like we used to hear about, Notre Dame defense, Notre Dame secondary can't keep up with elite wide receivers and that kind of thing. We don't hear that.
Right.
Now, has there been a busted play or two? Of course there has, but there are not glaring issues like Fiesta Bowls past and Sugar Bowls past, I'm talking about 20 years ago. We're not hearing that kind of stuff. And the biggest reason why is because you have even Clemson for, in the college football playoff. I mean, you basically had Julian Love, we all remember. And then once Julian Love went down, there were big issues in that game. And now you've got a whole secondary of Julian Love plus guys.
Right. Right. No, absolutely. And I also want to dispel the rumor that there was, a negative rift between Mickens and Chris Ash, and Mickens was mad at Freeman and was looking for another job. Like, none of that is the case. Like, there's no salacious, page 6 story to get out
I mean,
there
if that was
about
the
this.
case, he could have jumped on a college job a month ago.
He'd been gone a long time ago.
Yeah.
If that was the case, right? I mean, so this was just an opportunity that he couldn't pass up, and it was like you said, this was a connection that has been around for a long time, and it came to roost when this job happened. It all happened organically, and just like anybody else, if you are a person who is looking to hire someone, you go on your list of guys that you've worked with in the past, or guys that you have gotten good relationship advice from, or whatever. It's like you go down that list, whether they're actively looking for a job or not, you call to gauge interest.
Yeah.
And in this regard, going from, he's going to have the exact same title with the Ravens that he did at Notre Dame. It's college versus the NFL. Like, this is a promotion. This is a step up. And so it just so happened this was an opportunity that he couldn't pass up. And I don't blame him. And I'm happy for him. We'll see what happens.
Vince's middle name is Thesaurus. Well, he has all day to sit around and
I don't even know what I said. Like, it's just whatever.
I didn't hear that many big words. Didn't hear, put together a coherent thought. I mean, it wasn't like that deep.
Don't sound so surprised I put together a coherent thought, Stiers.
No, I'm not surprised, but
okay.
The listeners are surprised.
That might be a problem too. I don't know.
The other thing, with Mike Mickens now gone, all the defensive position coaches have now turned over. Linebacker coach Max Bulla, of course, left to become co-defensive coordinator at his alma mater, Michigan State. Al Washington moved from the defensive line to linebackers. They hired Charlie Partridge, of course, to coach the defensive line. And now Mike Mickens is gone. So, and it also means that Al Washington is the only assistant coach on either side of the ball now who is left from Marcus Freeman's first staff.
Wow.
In 2022.
That's a great point.
To me, that's not a concern at all. But it shows the success of the program and the turnover. But when you look at the fact that the entire defensive staff has flipped from just a year ago, does that give you concern? Are you still confident? Where do you fit on the scale there?
Oh, I'm still very confident. Because everybody that has left for a promotion. And as a head coach, that's what you want. Now, you may not want to lose your guys, obviously, but you want your guys to be successful. And every one of those guys left for a promotion. So it's not like they were fired.
I'm not saying concern because they're leaving. I'm just saying concern with the success or failure
the continuity
of the 2026 team. Yeah,
I got you.
The continuity of the fact that you've got a turned over staff remaining here at Notre Dame. You're going to have a different position coach for every position group on the defensive side of the ball.
Gotcha. I think there's just so much talent. It's going to be hard to screw it up, I guess is the best way to put it.
I hope so, man.
I do too. So. I know. I do too. But
I think we were kind of thinking that early last season. And
it's fair.
Somebody found a way to screw it up.
That's fair. 4 points is the difference between, being in the playoff and talking about the offseason since December. So,
yep.
Early December.
Exactly.
Very early.
I'm at least moderately concerned because like you said, it's hard to screw it up, but let's hope we're not eating those words come early October.
Right. I know.
I mean, obviously the schedule shapes up different, so it's going to look
this is true.
A lot different. But
this is true. But hey, be ready for the mighty Badgers of Wisconsin. So, and their transfer portal acquisitions.
I know. We keep hearing about them.
What I keep being told.
Yep. All right, we've got more football talk coming up here in a little bit. We got a lot in rapid fire in the second hour of the show today. Our old friend Bobby Hensley is going to join us for that today. We've got an interview coming up next with Cassandre Prosper from the Notre Dame women's basketball team. So that'll be on the way. And then after that, more Notre Dame football talk coming up. Happy Monday. It's Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com. We continue Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com. Tough day for Notre Dame women's basketball yesterday. Fallen to Clemson. They are on the road this week. Got a West Coast swing coming up. First time with Cal and Stanford, members of the ACC. Notre Dame going to Cal Thursday night. They will stay in the Bay Area and then go to Palo Alto and Stanford on Sunday. But all of a sudden, this becomes a pretty big two-game swing, I think, coming up here, Vince, after yesterday.
Really does. And I mean, you talked about it, when the skeptics started coming out of the woodwork. How about that? With how many wins they had to have in the ACC in order to, be in the tournament and all of those kinds of things. Are they still kind of on pace for that to happen? I mean, I guess I've never personally been worried that they're going to make the tournament.
Right.
It's just a matter of where, seeding and all that kind of stuff.
10 is the number that I've talked about. There are
Okay.
18 ACC games. They're halfway through the schedule right now, so they're 5-4.
Okay.
So if they can duplicate the 5-4 in the second half, that gets them to that 10 that I've been talking about.
Okay.
And as of right now this was going into the weekend. A week ago, going into the UConn game, the bracketology on ESPN had them as an 8 seed. And after the UConn game, after the loss, back-to-back losses to UConn and Louisville, the bracketology actually bumped them up to a 7 seed.
Okay.
Which I thought was pretty interesting. Now, you can't account for, losing.
Sure.
Now, look, I will say this. Now, I never said this out loud, but as I have, sat back and looked at the schedule and who's coming up and, how things could go, I felt like Clemson was going to be a toss-up game. And that's kind of the way it ended up going.
Yeah.
So I know there are a lot of skeptics, and I'm not going to convince all.
Yeah, I mean and that's the thing. I mean, it's just they've got to keep playing the games, and they have to keep doing what they're doing. Well, not doing what they're doing as far as the last game is concerned, but playing up to their potential.
I'll just remind everyone to take a breath. This is not at all a knock on Muffet McGraw, what I'm about to say. She went 10 years between winning a national championship and getting to another Final Four. And there were varying levels of what the team was in those 10 years in between. They were an 11 seed 2 years after winning a national championship. And they went on the road to Kansas State, knocked off Kansas State, which was the host in the 3 seed, and got to a Sweet 16. So that was a little bit of a, Cinderella. Yeah. But that was just 2 years after winning the national championship. And remember, 2 years after winning the second national championship, she unfortunately finished her Hall of Fame career with a sub 500 team. So it's like there are varying levels. Like everyone wants to judge this team, what they are, what they aren't, and all this different stuff. The goal is just make it to the NCAA tournament and
see what happens.
See what happens.
Yeah,
that's ultimately it.
Yep.
So, yeah.
I think this is a tournament team, in my opinion, and
I think so too.
They have to play that way, obviously, and they have to protect their home floor. But they've got an opportunity here on this West Coast swing, and you'll have an opportunity to go to the Wharf and have some fun and do those kinds of things, and they can come back 2-0.
Hopefully so.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you who's been, everyone talks about Hannah Hidalgo, obviously, but Cassandre Prosper has been a very large part of this Notre Dame women's basketball team as well, with career numbers in terms of scoring and rebounding and free throw percentage and 3-point percent, like everything else. She's having a great season. And I got to talk to her recently, and we will hear that conversation with Cassandre Prosper right now. We are joined by the one and only Cassandre Prosper from the Notre Dame women's basketball team. Cass, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing good. Staying warm, staying inside as much as possible, which I'm sure you are as well. Let's just kind of jump right into some basketball right off the top. You're having such a great season in your senior season for Notre Dame. How would you describe the year that you've had so far?
I think I would describe it as pretty unique, pretty special. I feel like this year I'm very like intentional with how I'm approaching every day in practice, every day on the court. So I do feel like it's been leading up to this, but it's definitely very special year.
Well, I mean, with any player, I mean, you can always see a progression as you go throughout your career. But I mean, you've doubled your rebounding, you've almost tripled your scoring average, compared to a year ago where you are right now. Where did it all come from?
I would say I think it really came from myself. I think this summer I've made a decision to really, I was like, okay, what do I want out of my senior season? And I was like, I want to become the best version of myself. So I started acting every day as that version of me. And I knew that it would have to like happen in my reality. So I don't know. I think it's always been a work in progress, but I do feel like this summer I made the conscious decision to like every day consciously be who I am today.
So I mean, it sounds like it started with a mindset as
hmm
much as anything. Was there any, like, in terms of the kind of work you did, who you worked with, any of that kind of stuff? Was any of that much different compared to previous off seasons?
Yeah. I mean, first of all, I was here during the off season. I think these past three summers, I've been with Team Canada, so I wasn't on campus. So I really wanted to make sure that I was present for my team during my senior season, and especially during the summer where we were getting a lot of different transfers, and I wanted to, be there to build their foundation. So being in the gym all summer really helped. But I also feel like I have a mental coach, Derek Grant, who's been amazing, and I've been working on and off with him during the past couple of years. But this summer, I say maybe like April, we really like focused on. For me, it was really important to get, obviously the mental work is the most important. So I knew I had to commit myself to that, and he's had such an amazing impact on my basketball life, but also like just life in general.
So what are maybe some specific things that he would give you to work on? Like, what are some examples of things that came from that?
I think it's, letting go of patterns or like habits that weren't, my thing was this season, I'm a WNBA player. And if that means I have to become a WNBA player before I am actually in the league, that's what I'm going to do. So really being who I want to be, and just like intentionally every action that I make every day. That was our focus. I think even now it's like whatever you do, do it as the WNBA cast would do it. And so that's how I'm like approaching everything, every decision, everything I'm doing, because I know that if I keep doing it like that, it has it has to happen. And yeah,
That's
definitely.
interesting because
Yeah.
I think like hearing sort of different people's success stories, no matter what aspect, what career path they take, it's basically like you can't be it until you think you are it, I guess, huh?
Exactly. And I think it was extremely powerful. I think, I have all my coaches, my teammates that believe in me, but having it come from me that was like, I'm making decision as Cass for Cass because I believe in her and I trust her to get there. So it was such a deep, like, inner work that for me, it's like, it was the most important thing because it's not like it was coming from anyone else. It was like a decision that I made for myself. And it was kind of like a trusting, like I commit to doing that for you because you deserve that. And I want you to be the best version of yourself.
I think I've said this before, like when we've done some of the post game interviews and stuff like that. Like, you seem so confident on the court. You never seem like you get flustered on the court. Like, does all of that stem from this? Does it feel
Yeah.
that way to you out there?
Yeah, I think it definitely gets frustrating, but I always look at it in the bigger picture. And what I've learned from all my years here is that ultimately, like, I'm gonna learn, and it's gonna result in something greater than what it is right now. And I think that's kind of like a testament to like my process in college is like, even though like sometimes it didn't feel like I was the player that I wanted to be, I knew that one day like it would. And so I don't know, I just take everything that's happened to me, especially in basketball, but just to see it like evolve, I'm like, I'm not worried that it's, I know it's going to like become something greater in the future.
I'm curious because Neil Ivy seems like she is such an empowering coach, and you always hear about and see the relationship that you as the players have with her. How much does sort of her approach play into some of these things, in terms of giving you and, the rest of your teammates as well, just that confidence and empowerment out there?
Yeah, Coach Ivy has always, since the recruiting process, every year she has always given me that trust. And so I never had to question that, especially I think this season where like my role was going to increase. She's told me numerous times, like, I fully trust that you can be that player for us. And I think she's also seen my work. But yeah, having a coach that believes in you, like this is what you want, especially when you're playing under that kind of leadership. So for me, it's like, of course, I got to believe in myself first. But once that's taken care of, then I have my coaches, my teammates that believe in me. Like I know, like sky's the limit.
You're in your senior season now, and it's hard to believe. Are you really only 20 years old still right now?
Yeah. Yeah.
That is amazing. So how old were you when you got to campus? Because you were an early enrollee. You came in the middle of the season when you first got here. How old were you when you got here?
I was 17. So I got here December 26th, and then my first game was December 29th. And I think that was 2022 going into 2023.
That sounds right.
It's so crazy to think about because I've always been seen as the baby. And I think this year is really the year I realized, like, whoa, like I'm actually a senior because, Sonia Citron is gone and Maddie and like all the people that were there when I first came in and that saw me as like the little baby or whatever, all gone. So now it's like, okay, this is it.
Did you ever have any doubts when you did that? Like, is this the right decision? If like that was the, like it was like baby Cass or whatever out there.
I don't think doing it like coming in early, I had doubts. I knew it was going to be different. And I knew like the eyes on me were kind of going to be different because it was in the middle of the season. It's not like you have like the whole summer and like I'm getting integrated into a team that's already been going for, half the season. But I always trusted that eventually, because that decision I made, I was so clear about it. Like it was such a clear decision for me that I didn't feel like it was going to be a bad decision. I think sometimes during the process of like when I was a sophomore and I got hurt, like you question those things a little bit, but ultimately, like I knew that when I made that decision, I was 100% sure. So I don't think it could have been bad.
You mentioned your international experience and the fact that you play with Team Canada. Having all that, like, did that kind of help you make that decision like you were ready for it?
Yes, especially playing with the senior team. Like I was playing against pros. I was playing with pros. So I kind of was used to, coming in at 17 and you're playing against 20, 21, 22-year-olds. Like the physicality is definitely different from high school to college. But I felt confident enough in terms of like the experience that I got the international experience and just like competing. At the end of the day, it's basketball. And regardless, I'm going to have to figure it out.
Did you feel lost at all? Or like, did you, were there any of those kind of moments at all when you were doing
a little
that?
bit at the beginning because like I'm learning new plays, but Coach Ivy did a really good job at like prepping the team and like prepping like I had like Coach Sherelle was with me. We were reviewing all the plays every time and like I would know the plays that we were going to use before the game, like stuff like that, so that it made it easier. And my teammates were amazing at welcoming me for sure. Yeah.
How do you think that the decision to do that has paid off then now, 3 years later?
Yeah, I think I've gained a lot of experience. I think my biggest thing for me is like I always want to put myself in uncomfortable situations so that I have to grow. So that was an uncomfortable situation. It was a challenge. And I knew that in the end it would be rewarding. It didn't look like it, but I feel like because I'm used to like being in challenging situations, I'm always going to rise up. And that was like something that I had never done before. And so I'm glad that I did it just because I overcame it in a way. And that's rewarding to me.
If you went back, if you could go back to the time leading up to that, is there any advice you would give yourself knowing that you would be going into that?
I think I would just I would want to be present more. I think I was like anticipating always like the next thing instead of being there. But I don't know, just trust what's in plan. It doesn't have to look one way or a certain way. The plan is always going to happen, but it might look different. So, yeah.
Your parents were both basketball players in college. Was basketball pretty much always part of your life growing up? Because you obviously have a brother who's in the NBA as well.
Yes, basketball has always, my parents played in college. I always tell people that like me and my brother were brainwashed because we had no other choice but to play back. We played other sports too, but basketball was definitely very, very important in our house. So having my brother like to look up to was also amazing. And then my parents, we would go with senior league and watch them play, like stuff like that.
Did you two play against each other much, or was he too old for that, for you to play against him?
Against each other, like at home and stuff like that. But
right,
he was like, especially when he started getting too tall, and I was like, I'm not getting dunked on. Like, it's
You're from Canada, obviously, which you well know, but for those who might not realize it, so what was basketball like in that Ottawa, Montreal area where you grew up?
It was very, I think, especially in Montreal and Quebec, like basketball is definitely a very important sport. I think I went away to Ottawa to go to prep school because I knew that I would have like greater opportunities, and like the league was a little bit stronger. But Montreal has a strong basketball foundation, especially just, I don't know, Toronto is so close, and the Toronto Raptors and stuff like that. So I really want, Montreal to have even more visibility.
Well, and now the WNBA is expanding. They're going to be in Toronto this coming up season. Is it pretty exciting to think about that the WNBA is going to be in Canada?
Yeah, I'm so excited that the Tempo are coming to Toronto, and that we'll get even more visibility. I think the WNBA is expanding, and it's beautiful to see. It's beautiful. I think it's a great time to be a women's basketball player. And I'm just grateful that, to all the women that have come before me and just the people that are still paving the way for me. So it's amazing.
Would it be kind of a dream scenario for you if you were able to play on a WNBA team in Canada?
I would absolutely love that. Yeah, I would. That's definitely a dream for sure.
I think you've got another year of eligibility if you want it. Have you even started to think about that, or like what your future plans might look like?
Yes, it's definitely the future year eligibility is there. It's not like I have made up my mind. I think I know deep down what I want to do, but I don't think it's like I don't need to think about it now because we still have like the whole season to play.
Yeah. And there's a lot of basketball to go. What's your message to Notre Dame women's basketball fans over these next 2 months of the season?
Keep watching, keep cheering us on.
All right. Sounds good. Cassandre Prosper, Notre Dame women's basketball. You've got practice, so I don't want to get you in trouble. Thanks for doing this. I appreciate it. I see somebody peeking in there. I'm letting you go. Thanks, Cass.
Thank you. Bye.
I was and especially as I was watching back on that video there, Vince, I think you could kind of see her. I think someone was texting her, you need to get to practice. It was literally up to the cutoff. We started a little bit later. No, we thought we were going to. And so I was pushing it there.
It was the literal hook. Like they were coming, they were like, wrap it up.
Exactly. But Cassandre Prosper, she has, as I think I said in there, she's averaging just under 16 points a game, a little over 7.5 rebounds. We were talking about the team in general and NCAA tournament and stuff like that prior to that interview. Notre Dame women's basketball strength of schedule right now is 8 in the nation.
That means
number
something.
8 strength of schedule. Non-conference strength of schedule is number 6, and their net ranking is number 30. Now, obviously, they need to win some more games. It's not, but they have very good credentials when you look at their tournament resume as of right now. So,
I mean, yeah, if they were going to make the tournament today, they would be in. I feel very strongly about that. Now, there's still 9 games to go, and a lot can happen. And then, of course, you've also got the ACC tournament and, what can they do there? So,
Right.
We'll keep following along. We'll keep listening to Sean Steyer's call the games.
Yes.
And hopefully you're in a better mood at the end of these games coming up.
January's almost over. Last
I
game of
know.
January, Thursday night, 10 o'clock Eastern time. So have fun staying up, listening to Notre Dame women's basketball this Thursday. It'll be a little bit earlier on Sunday. Let's take our final break of this hour. Back to wrap up hour number 1. We've got rapid fire coming up in hour number 2. Bobby Hensley's going to join us. It's on the way. Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com. Let's wind down hour number 1. Hour number 2 on the way. Ran a little bit longer than I thought, so gonna have to push some stuff around in the second hour for rapid fire, but that's all right.
Okay.
We'll make it through. I can't believe, Vince. Are you a little sad that we're down to one football game left of this football season? The Super Bowl is it now.
Yeah. I mean, this is always a minorly depressing time of year. I generally get reinvigorated in the middle of February when, pitchers and catchers report. I get excited about that kind of thing. And then it dies down until the actual season starts, that kind of a deal. But I mean, it's sad when football is over. But, you've got whatever the XFL, USFL combo thing. They'll be out here in a few weeks, I think. And so that's kind of always fun. Maybe just turn on if you're feeling that little bit of an itch. But, it doesn't matter until spring ball starts and then fall camp and all of those things for
that's true.
Notre Dame football.
Like for us, no, I didn't even think about it that way. For us, like there might not be any games, but at the same time, we've got fall camp coming up, so that that scratches a little bit of a football itch. And
because we'll get to see some of the guys. The vast majority of the 26 class is going to be on campus. We'll get to see them running around a little bit in the spring, and then of course you've got the transfers, and maybe I'm not even sure who's going to be available, in the spring. So what does that look like? And then, we're going to see at least 2 coaches that we haven't seen before, and kind of listen to how they're coaching up their guys and things. So there's going to be plenty to do, and that's going to be right around the corner, because I feel like January took forever, and then February I feel like goes pretty fast, and then March hits and it's like, okay, spring ball, here we go.
January always takes forever.
Oh, this has been brutal.
January is always the worst month.
Man,
because once you get to February, it's kind of downhill. Because
yeah,
again, like you're getting towards camp and basketball season is really
Basketball, that's when
winding
it ramps up.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, because you know, in Indiana, you've got the girls basketball. They do their tournament pretty much starting in February.
Yeah.
And then the boys take over in March. And then you've got the men obviously in college in March. And so that gets you through February and March, I feel like. And then it's spring ball for football. And
Boom.
before you know it, it's summertime, Stiers. That's just how it goes. You know?
That's exactly right.
Man.
All right, let's put a wrap on the first hour of the show. Bobby Hensley is going to join Vince and I for hour number 2. It's rapid fire. We are going to have plenty of Notre Dame football coming up in hour number 2. As Stymie said, Winter Olympics. I keep forgetting that this is a Winter Olympic year. When does it actually start?
Like the first week of February. Like it's coming.
It's like next week.
Opening ceremonies, I think, are
maybe
I want to say the 6th. I don't know why, but like it's a single digit.
I think the opening ceremonies are usually on a Friday.
Okay.
Bobby's
shaking
his head is.
No, I'm just
doing this again.
Yeah, it is. It's Friday, February 6th.
Opening ceremonies are next Friday on NBC, and then
I was going to say, Bobby,
after the Super Bowl, the NBC is going straight to the Olympics right after it.
There you go. Bobby knows his TV.
February 6th. I told you right here.
Yeah, see,
you were locked in.
I know, Vince. You know everything. We already all know that.
Locked in, baby. Gosh.
Vinny the Brain D'Addario.
Because I've only been to school like once in 2 weeks. I've got a lot of it's overflowing here.
You have the brain on Vince. All right. Take a time out. Hour number 2, rapid fire coming up. Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com. along with Vince D'Addario and Bobby Hensley. Glad to have you with us in hour number 2 of the show. Sean Stiers with you. Bobby, I was thinking about this when you came in. Has it been since before Christmas that we saw you last?
Yeah, the last time he tried to kick me out.
Before we kicked you out?
Yeah. Something about Vince's request.
Oh, ouch.
No,
I don't make requests. I just show up.
You weren't supposed to say that on the air.
I don't make
It's like
requests.
that quote. It's either him or me, and then you kick me out.
It's been a low bar. It's a low bar.
Can't trip over spray paint. Yeah, it's been that long.
Well, it's good to see you. Let's jump into some rapid fire in hour number 2 of the show. I think we're set for just one break in the middle here.
Okay.
And so we've got...
Are we all the way to 7? I don't know what it's like to work a full show.
I know. We've got space in this show tonight.
Okay.
I believe it'll be 6:55-ish. I'll have to look at the log the next time we take a break. But
we'll get to the break, and then he'll go, wait, it was wrong, and then he'll
Yeah.
change all of his time anyway. So
I've never done that before. Circling back to our top story of the day. Defensive backs coach Mike Mickens is leaving Notre Dame to take the same job with the Baltimore Ravens on Jesse Minter's first staff. Where do you guys rank Mickens among Notre Dame's best assistant coaches of the last 25 years?
You haven't had a chance to dive in on the Mike Mickens saga, so I'll let you go ahead.
Vince is passing the buck.
I think he's better than Van Gorder, so we can start there. Back to you,
At the
Vince.
bottom. He's not at the bottom.
Back to you. No, I think when you get in the defensive backs coach, he's a good coordinator, but he's not leading the defense. He's taking care of a position group. So even if he is one of the best ones, the loss isn't hurt as bad, especially when you have a defensive head coach who kind of oversees all the defense anyway.
Allegedly.
Well, yeah, when they're good.
Of course, because nobody blames Mike Mickens when they weren't good.
Do we put, I think Harry Hiestand is considered the gold standard of assistant coaches. Do we put Mike Mickens on par with Harry Hiestand? Do we put him above Harry Hiestand? Do we put him a notch below Harry Hiestand, Vince?
Here's the thing. Mike Mickens was never a coordinator, right? And so it's really hard.
That's kind of what Bobby was alluding to.
Yes. So it's really hard to compare him to Mike Elko, Marcus Freeman, that whole line of defensive coordinators, that was really, really good.
That's a good point that you bring up Freeman, though, because
Right.
I hadn't even thought of Freeman from an assistant standpoint because he only spent 1 year there, but he did use that to get promoted to head coach. So you do have to consider him one of the top assistant coaches in the last 25 years.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was going to say, I think I would actually put him just above Harry Hiestand. And I know that's probably controversial. But I would also say that Notre Dame was still very much an offensive line driven team. They had really good offensive linemen before Harry Hiestand. Now, Harry Hiestand was really, really good. Don't get me wrong. I don't think you can say the same thing about the secondary at Notre Dame before Mike Mickens got here, if we're talking about this 20-year period.
Well, I guess that's a good point, because I was thinking he'd be just a step below him, but you're
That's
right.
fair.
The offensive lines were good before, good during, and good now. I just have a hard time with when you think of Notre Dame, their strength for the last 20 years has been offensive line. So I guess you could argue maybe it is the coaches, maybe it was the line. I don't know. Yeah.
We're splitting hairs because they're both really
and they're on the same level.
But I think the thing is why Notre Dame, because Notre Dame has pretty much always been driven by the offensive line and the tight ends, right?
Tight end.
Yep.
But if you look at last year and you're able to make it to a national championship game and you do the things that you do on the national stage, now you still have to be great in the trenches. But I think that, look at the Penn State game, no catches by a wide receiver, right? There's a reason for that. There's a reason that you are competing and excelling on the national stage now against the other premier programs and going to a national championship game in a multi-tiered, college football playoff. And that's because your secondary is in a completely different place right now than it was in, say, 2020 and 2018, when you were seeing other teams' elite wide receivers just run right by you. So I think that you have to put Mickens. I think that I would put them
1A,
lateral,
1B.
like, yeah,
I think
1A,
that's fair.
probably. He's Stan Mickens. And again, I think it's fair that you put Freeman in there.
It is too short almost.
Yeah, it's like
Agreed.
he's
I
an
get that.
interesting case because he didn't have long enough, but because of who he was an assistant, that obviously elevated him
Mhm.
to the head coach. But he did start to change things in terms of guys they were able to recruit, like recruiting Jalen Sneed as an example, while he was still an assistant coach. I believe that was, if my timeline is correct. He was still an assistant when he recruited Sneed and some of those other guys.
But how wonderful of a problem for Notre Dame that you can have this discussion. And there's so many good answers and so many coaches that have been promoted and going to the NFL. It's not like they're being fired and finding new jobs. The one that's, to me, it's like you wouldn't talk about Freeman. I think it was too short of a tenure as a coordinator. But where would he be right now had he not been promoted as head coach? Like if Kelly was still here, I don't think he'd still be Notre Dame's defensive coordinator.
I don't either. I think he ultimately would have left and gone off someplace and would have been either a head coach someplace else or would have been a defensive coordinator for a team like I'm just using this as an example. I don't know that he and James Franklin, would have been, throwing parties together in State College, but like a program like that helped them, get to the college football playoff and probably would have been a head coach someplace else by now.
Or in the pros even. I mean, all that the smoke around him about going pro or not, I think he would have been there as a coordinator by now if that path hadn't been suddenly changed for him, which worked out for Notre Dame pretty good, I'd say.
No, exactly. He obviously had a high profile, the fact that Brian Kelly had to keep him away from LSU and, the fact that
he brought in good
Kelly ended up
coordinators
at LSU and everything else that's happened since then. It's an interesting, sliding doors situation, just everything involving LSU over the last 5 years, starting with Freeman coming here instead, and then BK going there, and then BK getting fired and Lane Kiffin.
Well, this isn't the topic you wanted to start, but is LSU that toxic, or is it BK that kind of brought the toxicity with him?
I think that's a great combination of the two.
Yeah.
How about that?
When they didn't really fix their problem either.
Nope, but they're spending a lot more money.
Well, we'll see. We'll see.
I think I saw a $40 million roster. I think that's the last thing I saw today from somebody. Like, whew.
Well, and Kelly had the number one transfer class in the SEC last year, and
That worked out really well.
No.
Since we're on the subject of LSU, their new athletic director, because they fired, of course, their athletic director after they fired Brian Kelly.
Why not?
Verge Osbury, who, of course, is the father of Notre Dame linebacker Jaden Osbury, recently did an interview with Baton Rouge TV station WAFB, and he had some interesting comments about the SEC going to that 9-game conference schedule coming up this upcoming season. Here is what Verge Osbury had to say.
The last 3 national champions didn't play a Power 4 program outside of their conference. And going to 9 conference games, that changes the dynamics a lot. So we need to take a look at that and study it. In fact, I just sent it to the SEC Commissioner's Office, talking about, do we really have to play a Power 4 opponent with the 9 conference games now? Do we still need to do that? So we have to give our teams and our conference the advantage to playing in that final championship game. In the last 3 years, we haven't made it to the final game. So something is there with that. When the last 3 national champions didn't play a Power 4 program outside their conference, we need to take a deep look into that as a conference to where we are. So does it make sense to still play the Clemsons, the Ohio States, the Notre Dames, the UCLAs, the USCs? Does that make sense still? So we need to take a look at that as a conference and figure that out. But the home schedule is great. It helps us with the ticket demand, as you say. But we have to also realize, too, what's going to happen in this new model, and we don't really know. There's a lot of uncertainty to that, to figure out how we want this to look and how we go further with football scheduling.
Okay, so again, that's Verge Osbury, the LSU athletic director, and he obviously very specifically mentioned Notre Dame in terms of future scheduling and some other schools as well. He's, not necessarily singling out Notre Dame, but talking about them in terms of, do we go out and play other good teams? So my question to you guys is, when you hear comments like that, does it give you concern for Notre Dame as the Irish look to put together their future schedules?
The only thing that concerns me is that, okay, they're not going to play LSU in the regular season because they're going to try to scheme and finagle their way into getting a good, end of season win-loss record. I don't think that is going to be the case across the board because, I looked at Ohio, okay, let's take his example, right? Okay. Ohio State in 2024, when they won the national championship, they did not play a Power 4 team outside of their conference. That is absolutely accurate. They did in 23, they did in 25. I feel like that's an anomaly, not a situation where that's going to happen all the time. I don't feel like Ohio State is going to go out and do that year in and year out. I don't feel like most teams are going to do that year in and year out. And until we hear that Notre Dame is struggling to put together a schedule, which has not happened yet, I just don't think that's going to catch fire like people think it is. I don't see it. But
it's also been less than a week that this new playoff format became official, and the reports of, the stuff with the memorandum of understanding and everything else, it's like less than a month since that got out. And, in that time, Notre Dame has also only announced one future opponent, and that's BYU. So, I get what you're saying, but like most of what you're saying is based on an old system that is before all of this stuff blew up.
They don't need anybody else on their schedule, though. Like, I don't think that they need.
So they don't need to put together future schedules.
They have their schedules put together is the point that I'm making. I don't think they have a bunch of holes that they need to fill. That's the only point I'm making.
The 28 schedule, is that the year that it's absolutely loaded, completely stacked, where they played Alabama and so they have a lot of holes already filled in their schedule, to Vince's point. That's what I think he's saying. He goes, right. He's saying they aren't making all these announcements because they already made them quietly in week 5 or last year in the off season. That's his point. To me, it's almost twofold. It's the hubris. Like, do you want to schedule all these big opponents? Because if you do, what you're saying is we're going to beat them. Because why would you schedule another big opponent and risk a loss? Because you lose, you fall down in the rankings. But then what about Notre Dame? They could also kind of lock out the other ones, play one tough game. Even if they lose it, they'll be in the top 12. And then they can make the playoff based on this new agreement and the new format, to Sean's point. I don't think that the announcement of the format is going to change their future scheduling right now. It's too fresh. It's too new. They already have their schedules filled out for the most part.
They have parts of their schedules.
They have 10. They have 10 opponents for the next 5 years straight. I just looked. So that means they can add.
That means they need 2 more opponents.
That means they can add Western Michigan and Ball State and be just fine and still have 10 Power 4 opponents on their schedule. Like, I don't see the issue.
But is that enough for them to stay in the top 12, even if they do have a good year with one loss?
Yes, because they've got 10 Power 4 opponents, and I don't see that being a problem.
Well, they've already shown that they don't really respect the ACC teams that much.
They had 2 losses. That's the problem. That's the conversation. Notre Dame with 1 loss, they're in. With 2, you're leaving it up to the committee.
Right, but then what about these other teams that are going to stop scheduling these tough games, and now they'll only have 1 loss or fewer? Now they're going to be ahead of Notre Dame, like in Alabama or those schools. Even if they have 1 loss in the SEC and they didn't schedule anybody tough outside of it, that still might pull them in the top 12.
With a very, very, now this is me talking on Monday, January 26, 2026. I have a very hard time seeing the committee leaving out a Notre Dame team who only has 1 loss. That would be very.
Why are we talking about this? This isn't even. Why are you going this direction, Bobby?
I didn't. You asked a question. He answered, and then we got into this.
I did not say anything about how this impacts Notre Dame's playoff.
Well, I think that's what we're getting at, though. That's what the schedule is. The schedule isn't about week to week.
It's how can you make the playoff?
Yeah.
Agreed.
Right. And the other side of this, from like the Verge Osbury, the LSU, I think that there are going to be a lot of other schools like LSU who are going to be looking at it this way, because with the playoffs staying at a 12-team format, I'm just not going to be surprised if a lot of other athletic directors and coaches think this way, because it's a benefit to Notre Dame to have a guarantee that, they get into the to the playoff field if they're ranked in the top 12. And I think that there are going to be other schools who say, well, why should we schedule Notre Dame if they've got this guarantee? But at the same time, but it's not all just money, Vince.
Oh, it's a lot about money, though. Because how are those programs going to stay afloat if they can't sell out their stadium?
Are you going to let me
one
finish?
team.
Are you going to let me finish?
I was just making
Because there's also money
in.
involved with these other schools if they make the playoff like that. And like making the playoff is still the thing. Now, it's important to remember a couple things, though, about this whole thing and the memorandum of understanding, which, of course, there is nuance to this that nobody who blew it up last week wants to talk about, because everybody's made it about Notre Dame, and everyone, nobody's mad at either the Big Ten or the SEC or the other conference commissioners who actually approved the memorandum of understanding 2 years ago. But the reason that Notre Dame got that assurance is because when the commissioners and Notre Dame were all sitting in the room negotiating, the SEC and the Big Ten, you might remember, they were pushing to get multiple bids every year in the playoff format, and either a 12-team or a 14-team. They wanted not just the automatic bid for winning your conference championship, they wanted multiple bids. And so Notre Dame, like in exchange for getting Notre Dame to vote for it, basically, Notre Dame was like, well, we've got to be guaranteed that we're not going to get squeezed out if we're ranked in the top 12 if you guys are going to get these multiple bids. Now, the multiple bids didn't come about, so that's why nobody's talking about this. But Notre Dame got the spot guaranteed, and again, all the other conference commissioners voted for it. And in the meantime, now, the SEC expanded their 9-game, their conference schedule, as Osbury was talking about, to 9 games, which the Big Ten wanted. But the Big Ten, as I've said a million times before, still doesn't have the rule that requires their conference to play an extra game against a Power 4 opponent. Like, they're going to go out and still play Sisters of the Poor. And in the meantime, you've got the SEC saying, well, you're going to have to play a 10th game against a Power 4 school. And as Vince said, Notre Dame has got a lot of schedules lined up where they're already playing 10 games, with the exception of that might be a little gray because Navy is included, I'm sure, in those 10 games.
That's fair. That's fair. Here's my thing. There are 68 Power 4 teams. I feel like Notre Dame is going to be able to find 10 of them that would want to play every year. I just don't see that being a problem.
No, I mean, that's fair, but at the same time,
are they the good ones, though?
Yeah, exactly. And I've got doubts about whether or not Clemson is going to remain a good team for the length of the contract that Notre Dame signed with them.
Sure. And those are the chances that you take when you make these kinds of schedules, right? Like, you don't know that USC is going to be terrible and you're going to beat them every single year. Like, that's the chance that you take when you play USC. I don't know. I'm not at a point where the sky is falling yet from a scheduling standpoint, because I do still think that Notre Dame's resume as what they bring to the table in a contract negotiation from a home and away scenario is still very strong.
Well, there's a reason why the ACC allows them to be half in and half out, right? And that's the lucrative nature that Notre Dame brings.
Right.
Yeah.
But I agree with both of you for different reasons on different things. I think that the saying that Notre Dame brings money to the table, that's right, coach speak. I think that's just kind of like everybody always says it. That's only true till it's not. If they start, I know then if they get the 10 opponents every year and they get these big matchups, that will keep the money flowing. If not, if these teams start to back out of these matchups, like IU backed out of a couple matchups this year against mid-level Power 4 teams.
That's right.
They bought their way out. So if Notre Dame has these other teams that want to start doing that because it gives them an extra win on their schedule and then they look better at the end of the year, I can see it. And I think if they go to 16 teams in the playoff, that could be even bigger, which we know that's going to happen eventually. Because now all you got to do is finish in the top 16 to make the playoff. That's nothing. That's easy if you're one of those top half of the SEC Big Ten. And then to the other point, if this does go to crap for Notre Dame and they start to struggle to schedule, you know what they'll end up doing? Because everybody will want them. They'll end up in a conference. I'm not saying they need to right now. I'm not saying they should or that's what I want. I'm just saying worst case scenario in a few years, I could see that happening. They're not going to lose their Division I status or anything. So I'd like to Vince's point, the sky isn't falling. They'll still be relevant. They're still Notre Dame. The sport is better when Notre Dame is good. but I think that the worst case scenario is they end up with a better conference tie, maybe, or that they fully join one eventually.
Yeah, see, I don't think they're going to get a better conference tie, though.
Right. They already have a good deal there, but I'm just saying that's
I'm
the worst.
just saying
That's the worst
there
case.
are only 3 other Power 4 conferences at this point.
That's what I
The
mean.
Big 12 is not better than the ACC. And,
No.
you know, like at best, it's a wash. And I just don't see the other 2 conferences
doing the half in, half out thing.
Yeah.
I don't see that being the case either. They have enough clout where that's not going to happen.
Right.
So,
Right.
yeah.
Or a new conference
You know, and again,
could pop up.
Like, again, like all of this, what I was just talking about with the Big 10 and the SEC, they wanted those extra bids and they were threatening to walk away and do their own thing together. And that's how this whole memorandum of understanding came about and why Notre Dame got that assurance. But again, the meatheads, all they want to talk about is Notre Dame getting this assurance. They're not wanting to talk about the why and how it happened, but that's how it all happened.
Well,
and like people are reacting basically to the symptom. You know, they're not actually reacting to what caused the whole thing.
Well, the one thing I would like to point out too is that this playoff is not NCAA driven. It's a separate entity. Yes, they work together, but the playoff is formed by their own committee, their own system, so they can do whatever they want. So when you get to the end of the year, they can just look and pick who they want. Doesn't matter if Notre Dame played 10 teams from the conferences that might not be that strong, or 5 that are good, or 5 that aren't like that. They're not NCAA affiliated once you get to the playoff. Yes,
in my opinion, if I'm Notre Dame, I need 1 to 2 marquee games a year, and
1 home, 1 away.
The rest I don't care about as long as you're not playing 1 AA teams like that. That's where I'm at this point. Like you get 1 to 2 marquee games. Maybe that's your, Miami this year and your BYU. And then other than that, they're all Power 4 teams except for Navy. That kind of like Rice. Okay, whatever. They're not 1 AA, so I'm good. Like that's where I'm at.
No, again, but like to your point, like you kind of made the point because of the fact that for the next 10 years, Notre Dame is pretty filled up, but you still have to schedule beyond what just happens in the next 10 years. And that's the bigger question. And that's why I said, I think it was last week when we talked about this, it's a great benefit to Notre Dame in multiple ways if the playoff expands, at least to 16.
Absolutely. Because the margin for error is bigger.
Right. The margin for error for everybody,
yes,
not
that's
just
correct.
Notre Dame.
And 100%.
That's the point. So,
Right.
like, there's more benefit for those schools to schedule Notre Dame because the margin for error is greater.
Exactly what I was going to say. And you're going to see more of the cross-conference games, and you're the bigger beginning of season games, the week zeros and crap like that. Like, you're going to get more of those marquee games if there's more margin for error. I completely agree with that.
And you're saying because you can have 2 to 3 losses and you'll still be in the playoff if you have a good schedule.
Right. Exactly.
That's what you mean by margin of error, to be clear.
Well, and you could have an extra loss. I mean,
that's what,
yeah, exactly.
Because I don't feel comfortable. I agree with everything you guys are saying. I just don't feel comfortable with calling BYU one of the marquee games every year.
I didn't say every year. I said this year.
At least for this year, it is.
For this year.
Right.
I mean, they still have to,
They lost to 1 team this year.
Look at all the people that wanted to pit both Penn State and Clemson in the national championship game going into this season. And look, Texas. And look what ended up happening. There's no guarantee, with the exception of the fact that, as we covered last week, BYU and Texas Tech, like with the exception of Notre Dame, there's not a lot on BYU's schedule. They're not playing Texas Tech this year, and neither is Texas Tech playing BYU. They've got cupcake schedules, and the Big 12 has lined it up for them to get back into the playoff if they take.
So there you go. There's Vince's point right there. That's why these other teams will want to schedule Notre Dame, because that can be their benchmark of why they should be higher up in the playoff rankings.
Could, but as long as it's a 12-team format, it could also be what keeps them out of the playoffs, and that's kind of that area. I think by the time this probably matters for Notre Dame, like Vince is probably right because of the fact that it's going to expand to 16. It's just a matter of right now. The SEC and the Big Ten are butting heads on what the format is going to be. But eventually, it's going to go to at least 16.
So with this new format, though, Duke would have been in this year, correct?
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
With the new format,
the one that we're going to have
all the Power 4 conference champions would have got an automatic bid.
And then who would have been out that was in? Was it have been Tulane or James Madison, one of those two?
It would have been one of those two.
So Miami still would have been in.
James Madison was the lower ranked of the two.
Yeah.
So Miami
Basically, under this format, James Madison would have been bumped in Notre Dame and Miami. Well,
Miami, I think still. I mean, if you do the head-to-head,
probably still might have been a conversation between Notre Dame and Miami.
it might just be Duke in for James Madison. Like that might be the very simple switch, and you still would have had Alabama in for whatever crazy reason that they
lose the
were in.
30-year schedule and make a top 12. That's
James Madison would have been out though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the biggest difference. And we don't need to rehash that. I think one of the reasons Miami got in the first place is they wanted an ACC representative, and Miami fit that bill to a T. So would there have been two? I think that's a legitimate conversation that we'll never know the answer to.
And again, they can pick whoever they want because there's not like the NFL. There's no ranking and tiebreaker. It's a committee of people, humans.
Because there's 133 teams.
Right. No, I'm not disagreeing.
Yeah.
I understand why. I'm just
Right.
saying we can talk about it all
It's
day.
not clean.
But it's not
It's not clean.
doesn't matter.
Let's take a break. We'll come back and finish rapid fire Budweiser Sportsbeat with IrishBreakdown.com. Operator error there on the radio. My apologies. I have to see if I can get that figured out.
I saw you freaking out, like hopping around in your chair.
All of a sudden, it blew up in my ears, and I was like, what's going on here?
I'm at the studio. It was quite jarring.
Ooh. Very loud.
We don't need Dan Patrick in our show.
We were talking Notre Dame women's basketball in the first hour. John O'Connor in the YouTube chat says, stat of the game from yesterday. Rebounds, 40 for Clemson, 20 for Notre Dame. This was my post-game stat of the game.
No.
I'd have to do a stat of the game, and that was it.
Maybe he was listening.
Very lopsided rebounding,
well,
unfortunately.
It's just a rebound year for them. Build up for next year.
Oh, look at that little transition there, buddy.
That's what we call it in the biz. Learned it from you, Vince.
The NCAA has approved college. You just gotta stay going straight forward, or Bobby, you just take it straight off the rails.
Yeah, I know that.
NCAA has approved college teams wearing sponsorship patches on their uniforms beginning next season. Division I teams are going to be allowed to have up to 2 patches of no more than 4 square inches on their uniforms for regular season home games. Do you guys buy or sell them?
I hate it. I absolutely hate it. I know you're not. You would not expect anything different from me. I do not like the patches on the jerseys. There's enough patches on these stinking jerseys already. First of all, because you've got the people that make the jersey, you've got the conference, you've got whatever special patch they decide to put on. Like, there's too many patches already. This is going to end up being like European soccer, where you don't even know what the team name is because that's not on there anymore. It's just a sponsorship logo. I don't like it.
So Vince hates branding. That's what I'm learning.
I put it on the
field.
field.
Get Under Armour logo out of here. Get the ACC logo out of here. Well, I mean, the NBA has worked out. They still have the little patches on the jerseys, and they've limited it, and it works well. I think it can work well because you're going to get more money for your program to be able to buy players, and you're going to have to buy your players. So maybe aesthetically it doesn't look great. It's not going to be bigger than the team logo. You still are going to know what the team is. You're going to be, the colors, the team. I mean, I think that was a little bit over the top, but I think that'll be good to get more money involved, because if they get a couple extra million, you could buy one more starting player.
That's exactly right. That's it. I mean, you've got rev share and NIL and everything else. And you've got to make the money somewhere, and that's why the NCAA is allowed to let him do it. I'm surprised the NCAA actually has any say in this.
Seriously, that I don't disagree with. Yeah,
I'm just glad they're not putting them on the helmets. It's got to be on the jerseys, and like
Just
Bobby
wait.
said, other sports are doing it. Like Major League Baseball with that. Was it Strauss? Like on the side of the batting
that was
helmet?
for the playoffs only, but that was weird.
I think that's a little bit much.
Yeah.
personally.
Too big, but well, they have bigger uniform issues if you want to go down that path with the Fanatics uniforms not being the best quality. But
honestly, I would be, I don't mind it because of everything that's going on right now. I would be even more in favor of it if you just let the players, because of NIL, get their own sponsors. The things have to be the same size. They can have their own logos on their jerseys. And if they don't have a specific NIL, sponsor that wants to go on their jerseys, then you just go with the team sponsors. So I'm curious to see if Notre Dame does this, to be quite honest.
Yeah, that's one that's the key is Notre Dame. What are they going to want to do? But it'd be funny because, if you do the individual sponsors, you can clearly tell the bench players when they come on the court, because they'll be the only one with the Under Armour logo only or whatever. But Notre Dame's always kind of weird because I know they're paying some of their players, but they aren't as loud about it as the other colleges.
Well, and they don't have sponsorships in the stadium right now. They got NBC, and I think that might be it. And Under Armour, I think, is up there by the scoreboard, but that's it. They don't do sponsorship really in the stadium. So I'm very curious to see if they would do it on the uniform. I could see them going the route of NFL and doing it on the practice jerseys and things like. I could cover the practice jerseys and whatever you want. I could care less about that.
Onto the field, yeah.
You just cover it like NASCAR. Just cover it up. It's all good. I have more of an issue, I guess, with the game day stuff.
See, I guess I come from Ball State, and I'm thinking about how much that would help a program like that to get money involved.
Somebody put out Ball State with just a B for Ball State and then All State. I think
like
that's
they can
that's genius right there.
Homes and auto, right?
See? Yeah, that's genius.
Mahomes and Otto.
Yeah. They've never done that before. Well, Ball State's terrible. But no, I like I said, I think if you can get more money to get players in, do it.
Yes, that is correct. I'm thinking more from a Notre Dame standpoint, obviously. I mean, look, if you're Ball State, do it. Like, go get your money wherever you can. They don't have the endowment that Notre Dame had. They don't have the coffer that Notre Dame is working from, obviously. And so those lower level places, absolutely. You do what you got to do to get your money and try to compete with those other
But at
programs.
the same time, Notre Dame can command more money for those sponsors because they're Notre Dame.
Sure.
Because
I just don't think they need to. That's all.
Schools.
I just don't think they need to.
Everybody needs to.
It also depends what sponsorships you're bringing in. Like if you get a sponsorship like from Dude Wipes or something. Like,
I mean, Vince is coming. Yeah. Vince, you're basically coming from the perspective of, well, Notre Dame has money, so they don't need more money. I mean, I guarantee, like billionaires stay billionaires because they spend as little money as possible.
Look, Notre Dame does a great job with their sponsorships. They got plenty of them. Just watch an NBC broadcast and you'll see how many sponsorships Notre Dame has. That's fine. I just don't think they need to go to the length of putting a patch on a jersey. They got plenty of income. Don't ruin it.
Yeah, but then you can, I don't know, sell the jerseys, make even more money through that. So you're making money twice on them.
Notre Dame's not screaming poor. Like if they can't not afford to bring in whoever they want to bring in from a player standpoint, from a coaching standpoint. Money is not an issue. When it becomes an issue, put some patches on the jerseys, but that's not the case.
Yeah, if that NBC falls off that stadium, then there's a problem.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
What, Sean? You're thinking something?
No, I was just looking at the.
Oh, he's trying to fix his brakes again.
Craig makes a great point. Notre Dame doesn't even have a stadium name. Like that's a great place to start. If you want to put some extra money, it's blah 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 at Notre Dame Stadium. Like you're gonna make
a stadium.
So you would rather do that than put patches on the jersey?
100% because I would call it Notre Dame Stadium.
I got you, Sean. So you're saying you would rather have like a Coca-Cola logo on the field because that's the name of the stadium than a little patch on everybody's jersey?
Absolutely. 100%. What do you call the stadium that Denver plays in?
Why? Why are the jerseys so sacred that you can't put anything on the jersey though?
Because it's ugly. It's an eyesore.
I think it's a bigger blight putting it on the turf than it is a jersey because like the jersey, it's literally like 4x4. It's not that big.
Yeah, you throw a pass, you're not.
I wouldn't put that. Wouldn't be part of my. That wouldn't be part of the deal. We're not putting it on the grass. We're not putting it on the grass. We'll have signage. Around
the stadium, but not putting the signage on the field.
Right. Absolutely not.
So you've already changed.
Again, let me ask you a question. Where do the Denver Broncos play football?
Denver.
They play at Empower Field at Mile High.
Who calls it that? They call it Mile High.
Stadium.
Everybody calls it Mile High, correct?
Well, the old stadium was Mile High.
Yeah, and the White Sox still play at Comiskey and
I'm just saying, you can name Notre Dame Stadium whatever you want. Nobody's going to call it that. They're going to call it Notre Dame Stadium.
I don't know. If Notre Dame sells a sponsorship, they're going to put it everywhere. Like that's part of the deal. You have to, it's going to be.
You can put it wherever you want. Doesn't mean I have to call it that. That's all I'm saying. I don't think it's going to change anybody.
You're saying nobody will actually call it that. Oh, you just sell the sponsorship. No one is actually going to call it that. Notre Dame will be putting it everywhere if they were to sell that.
When you are referring to Chris Ash, what is his title?
I have no idea. But
exactly my point. He's the defensive coordinator.
But there's also a big difference between the endowment for the position, for the assistant coach compared to the naming rights to a football stadium.
Endowment, naming rights, it's the same stuff.
If they
changing the name of something for money.
Right. But if they name the stadium something, you know what's going to happen with it? They're going to have to wear a patch of that name of the stadium on their jersey.
They do not have to do that. What other team wears a patch with the name of their stadium on it?
Well, I'm just saying that'd be part of the sponsorship.
No. Then you don't get to sponsor my stadium. There's going to be rules. Come on. Again, how many sponsors does Notre Dame have, and it's not on their stadium anywhere? They have tons of them.
Conversation. It's over. All right. So this is New England Patriots receiver Matt Collins strolling into Empower Stadium at Mile High before yesterday's AFC Championship
Not Gillette
game.
Stadium. They didn't have the game.
Come out to play, Warriors! Come out to play! How does that feel? It feels good. It feels great. But Warriors! But the Warriors come out and play, you know? Come out and play!
So that's Mike Collins, New England Patriots wide receivers, doing a little Warriors, and that was Mike Vrabel in the postgame doing his Warriors shout there at the end. My question, which is better, that or Travis Kelce's fight for your right to party?
Go ahead.
No,
I said enough last time. I'm letting you talk.
I just think if the name is on the field, I like to fight for the right to party, but that's kind of more my vibe. Warriors come out to play. I'm not an athlete as much, so that doesn't get me going, but fight for my right to party does something for me.
That's the first time I've heard of either one of these things. When I was reading through the script,
You didn't know that Travis Kelce did You Got to Fight for Your Right to Party?
no clue.
Oh,
He's
that's
in-
true, because you're old and you turn off the TV as soon as the game is over.
Oh, I don't watch award ceremonies unless it's my
I
team.
thought you were going to say because he's a Swiftie and he's only watching to see if Swift's on TV.
Oh, no, he's got kept, man. It's okay. Okay. I mean, if you want to yell and scream stuff, whatever gets you ready to win a game, that's cool. I have no problem with it. Yell and scream all you want.
I just like the fact that, one, Vince is committed to the bit of being the bitter old man who will never like anything that's fun.
I don't think it's a bit.
I don't know. Well, you're right about
It's
that.
not a bit. I don't got time for that.
I don't know when it became that. But I also love the fact that a guy who's in his early 30s is referencing a movie that's almost 50 years old, The Warriors, at this point. So you obviously have no idea even
Nope.
what this reference
Nope.
is. So in The Warriors, a movie about gangs in New York City.
Was it the gangs in New York? That movie?
John C. Reilly was in that.
No, the
Oh.
movie was The Warriors.
Oh, okay. Never
About
heard of
gangs in New York.
it. Okay.
And Luther, this guy on the subway, had the beer bottles like Matt Collins had, and he was clanking them together, and he was doing his Warriors come out to play. And I like the fact that Matt Collins was even so committed to it. He matched the bottles that Luther, the guy in the movie who originally did it, had 2 brown bottles and 1 clear bottle. So I loved it, but I'm old. I'm older than Vince. I'm not as bitter as Vince, so I've got that going.
I mean, check the boxes.
Bobby, I'm guessing you've never seen the movie either.
I only watch the movies that you tell me to watch. You haven't done that in a while. So, no, I have not seen Warriors, but I know the clip. The clip's iconic. People have said it's been the beginning of some songs, like rap songs in the 90s and 2000s. So I've heard it. I just haven't seen the movie. But I know Beastie Boys.
I can't believe that you didn't know that Kelce did it. Like he did it so much. Travis Kelce, after they won, and you got he would do the post game, like the trophy ceremonies and all that stuff, and he would scream, "You got to fight for your right to party," and it was like so overdone. So I also like the fact that Matt Collins is basically known for being the guy who walks in barefoot, like he's the receiver that nobody really even knows who's on a roster until on social media. It's like, oh, there's Matt Collins walking into the stadium barefoot again. And so now he's walking in barefoot, clanking his beer bottles and doing his Warriors come out to play.
See, but maybe that's why I don't like it, because it's like he's trying too hard to be relevant. He wants to be a diva and a star. And it's like, well, I appreciate the reference and I'll laugh, but I don't need that from you. I need you to go there and play ball.
See, Chi-Town knows. He says he's an old man too, but he's seen the Warriors. Cult classic. Definite cult classic.
Cult classic means nobody's seen it.
So the Warriors.
Yeah.
Have you heard the Shaquille O'Neal when he's done the "Can you dig it"?
Yes.
Like that comes from the Warriors as well.
Okay.
Yes. And the guy who did the "Can you dig it" was murdered. There was this big gang convention. I think it was in Central Park. The Warriors were falsely accused of killing the guy who was trying to unite everybody.
Yeah.
And then it becomes they've got to spend the night like working their way through the gang-infested, streets of New York, fighting off these different gangs trying to get back home.
I had no
to
idea
Coney
you
Island.
were the movie voice.
Sorry.
No, it sounds good. Maybe I'll have to go watch it
Great.
sometime.
Makes me happy I don't live
It's
in a
worth
big
the
city.
90 minutes or whatever.
That's what I say. I'll watch 2-hour movie for those 2 quotes.
David Kaplan from ESPN 1000 in Chicago. Am I supposed to react to everything you say, Bobby, or do
No.
I keep this train driving?
Got to keep it driving in the right direction. We'll
I
never
got
get
3
done.
minutes, and then I'm gone.
David Kaplan says it was asinine that a trip to the biggest sporting event in the world was played in blizzard conditions in Denver yesterday when the Broncos played the Patriots. So you guys in or out on that? Vince, I'll start with you.
We're going to this one, I think.
Where does he live again? Chicago?
Right.
I'm so out on this comment. How could he possibly say that at 3 words? Home field advantage. That's what you want. I realize Boston is similar to Denver when it comes to weather and stuff like that. And so is it much of a home field advantage at that point? No. But at the same time, that's why you earned your home field. That's our home field. That's how we play. That's what we do. That's terrible. I'm so out on that. It is a terrible, terrible take.
I'm so out on it as well. I agree with everybody in the chat saying out as well. But how many playoff games do you remember because the weather was nice? But you remember the snow game. You remember the missed the tuck game for the Patriots.
Right.
That was in the snow. You remember all of the weather games.
Correct. 100%.
It's like, look at Chicago, like as an example, like back when the Chicago Bears and they played a game in the fog against the Philadelphia Eagles. You remember that? The fog game
Exactly.
at Soldier Field, like home field advantage is part of the deal. Like I don't want neutral site games for conference championship games.
That's what the Super Bowl's for.
No, that's exactly right. And the weather stuff are the games that everyone remembers. Like think about the tuck rule game.
I just said that.
He was looking at the timer. Look, the Broncos win that game if it doesn't start snowing, to be perfectly honest with you. They were mercilessly outplaying the Patriots early on in that game.
At what stadium?
Mile High.
Yeah.
And then snow hit and they couldn't do anything. So probably should have kicked that field goal earlier.
Like how Bobby is the pesky student in the back row, just incessantly chirping, and Vince is the teacher who just shoots everything down. He needs his ruler so he can swat Bobby's knuckles.
I'm the little brother nobody ever wanted.
That's a really good point.
Wow.
I think that's it. I think we're done here.
This is going to be every Monday, apparently. So
Well,
better strap on here because
I was told just to try this Monday and see how it goes.
That's true too. Well, we tried it on.
We kept the receipt.
Vince, are we kicking him? Are we kicking him out?
I'm all for it. I'm all for it.
Okay.
Keeps it spicy around here.
I enjoyed it because I got to talk to Vince a lot more than normally it's Sean I have to talk to. So
That's
There
true.
you go. See,
That's
spreading
true.
the wealth. It's gonna be me and Jesse tomorrow, though. So stay tuned for that one.
Bobby's got at least 2 votes. Irish Chi-Town and Joe are
There you
in.
go.
Bobby.
that's more than I expected. So thank you guys.
You've got that going
See?
for you. All right. Well, Vince and Jesse will be here tomorrow. I'm going to be on an airplane tomorrow heading to, I think we're flying to actually Oakland and, the Bay Area, that whole thing. And one thing I can guarantee, I don't know exactly how the weather's going to be, but there won't be 2 feet of snow on the ground.
No, there won't be, but it'll probably be like 40 degrees down by the ocean in San Francisco
be.
area.
Could
Yeah,
be.
but on his tablet, he'll have downloaded the movie The Warrior so he can watch it.
You guys need to watch it. I've already seen it.
Clearly.
Man.
Well, now I don't have to watch it because you spoiled everything.
All right, he's Bobby Hensley. He's Vince D'Addario. I'm Sean Stiers. That's going to do it for tonight. Appreciate you as always. I will be back Wednesday, so I don't know, but Jesse and Bobby, or Jesse
No,
and
nope.
Vince will be here tomorrow. Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com.